You know, I'll go ahead and start. Glad to see everybody here. Thank you, Department of Mines, for showing up, Senator.
Thanks for asking.
I'm really not sure how to start opening the meeting here. You know, everybody was here at our last meeting when we had excess of 100 people. You know, it was a lot of tempers flew, and we have the meeting with the Senator today where we can talk to them and give them our concerns and what we'd like to see happen moving forward. You know, mine people here, and hopefully Senator Thompson will give us some ideas on which direction we need to go. I open the meeting up now to general discussion, or if anybody have any.
Should we introduce ourselves?
That would be excellent. Yes.
We'll start with the Senator.
So, Roger Thompson, Senate District 8, which you guys know is part of the district. Would like to comment about how the redistricting is coming along. We're open for review. Get on the map and look at it. We'll be adding territory to rural Oklahoma, and to your point about getting results. Within a few years, we'll no longer be a rural legislature. Oklahoma City and Tulsa. As a matter of fact, rural Oklahoma loses a Senate district this next time around, simply because of population shift. It's going to make it harder to get things done in the future. So we need to be working on things that glad to be here, glad to listen. Probably we can talk about it in the Department of Mines as well. We received a letter from the Secretary of the Interior, and that they are really pushing that mining and mines will be moved away from the state supervision onto a reservation supervision. I think that's outside the scope of McGirt. I talked to the Attorney General this last week about suing the State Department of Interior. I've sent letters to the Conservation Commission as well as to the Department of Mines, encouraging them to file suit against the Department of Interior. We do not need our minerals, whether that be oil and gas or mining, underneath federal jurisdiction. It needs to be more under our state jurisdiction. We certainly, in my opinion, does not fall underneath the McGirt case, as the Secretary of the Interior now is saying it does. That deals with just major crimes, and so we need to make sure that we stay on top of that as we move forward. So that's an area that has been up for about the last 10 days that I'm working on as well, to make sure that we still have some jurisdiction over the very conversation you and I are talking about here today. And so just kind of by way of introduction.
So just follow up on what you said. If it goes under the Department of the Interior, then it's totally federally oversight.
The letter that I read is they're wanting to push it back to the reservation status. So if
And what does that mean?
well, if McGirt is expanded, and I believe the McGirt case only dealt with capital crimes, but it's being applied in a number of areas. We already have lawsuits in property tax that's going on, and ad valorem taxes. You've got the Oneida case up in Widener County. We've even got a group in McIntosh County that don't want to pay property tax anymore because they're Native Americans living on the reservation. That hurts your schools, hurts your counties, everything. And now then we see with the new secretary, who's a Native American lady, nothing wrong with that at all, but this was not a surprise, anticipated, that we all live on the Muskogee Creek Reservation. And so we'll be pushing more and more civil as well as criminal on the reservation status. That's going to hit us a number of areas, and that's not part of our case here today. But I was with Farm Bureau last week and talking to a lot of members outside of Okmulgee, and had an individual shooting deer from the road. And they were able to track that individual down. He had his CB ID card. Wildlife said we didn't really have any jurisdiction over it. The Glide Horse says we will not be going after them because, as Native American on the reservation, you're not getting anywhere you want to.
Even off the road?
And off the road. And so, I mean, these are issues we're having to deal with. So keep in mind, we're going to have to deal with this through the courts. And when we talk about mining, my position has been, as I said, I've already sent letters, I'm working with the AG, we're going to have to see the federal government to make sure we maintain jurisdiction over what we're talking about here today. So in addition to what you're talking about, this is the next level that we're also fighting.
Justin Tyler, he's my wife Terry, we're landowners. We actually have the land that borders one of them.
My name is Karen Duncan, neighbor, household here.
Lori and Samantha, I've been here since 2005, and I'm one of the neighbors that down the same road.
I'm Missy Liston. I
Mike Liston, this is my wife Dee Dee, we're, Liston, we're property owners in Lakeview also.
William Baldwin. Jack Jackson, property owner in Lakeview.
My name is Richard Shore. I'm the Minerals Director for the Oklahoma Department of Mines. My name is Rodney Mathis. I'm the Inspector for Mines here in Lakeview County.
Pat Levens, I'm also a property owner in Lakeview.
I'm Janice Best, and we're property owner of Tree Landing.
I'm Jerry Cox, and I also in Lakeview County.
Brian Vest, I belong to her. Okay. Off the damn
And
road.
don't you forget.
Oh, I knew that was coming.
Motorcycle enthusiast.
Well, as long as we got training wheels on there.
I think pretty much all of us are off the damn road.
That's right.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Different minds affect some of us differently, but it's all the destruction of property along the road. The noise, the devalue of our property.
And Dino Cox, I'm property owner in Lakeview as well, but I gotta share as well for the residents here. And this is not scripted, but fortunately or unfortunately, I spend my life underneath the dome from January to May with the senator. And I understand the meeting that you had before and the people. I'm disappointed that the commissioner is not here, but I will speak personally and professionally to the.
What's your name again?
Dino Cox. And I will speak professionally and personally of the integrity and the professionalism of the senator and what he means to his district. So with that, I know that we can get direction. You know, a lot of times you may not get what you want, but you certainly get representation. So keep that in mind as we move through. I don't have a vote here, but I have a twin that has a vote here, and I've got her here. And I know that representation means a whole lot. I don't know that we got that in the first meeting, but I think that we would have that with this meeting with the senator's directions.
Okay, well, you know, I don't know what can we do? Can we go look at rule changes within the DOM? Is that a possibility? You know, I'm not sure if legislation would help us or hurt us. What's the pulse out of the Capitol? You know, to me, real changes would be the way to go. When a mining company wants to drill, or not drill, but mine an area, what we understand is they post it on the website and run it in the paper. You know, I guarantee you there's nobody at this table that takes paper. I mean, why should we have to go to a website every day just to sit in a permit file?
Okay, so let me ask you a question then. I believe in legal notices and papers, and so I own a paper, it's what's real good. However, how would they notify you? This is a,
Okay, doesn't the wool company, because I've had property before where they're drilling within a half mile of my house, they have to notify every property owner within a half mile of my house.
so you talk about either by letter or?
Or a physical posting on the property that's about to be permitted.
But,
You know, so people that drive by can see, hey, they're getting ready to do.
you know, why can't they hire a landman and let them go to the courthouse, pull the record of the property owners and notify them, and at least have a public hearing before any.
Well, with the digital age, you can get there with your phone. There's apps where it can tell you this is the landowner that owns this.
Well, I mean.
Based on where you're at, it's
but
not
still,
hard.
Well, here's something else. The mining department, not my department, but the miners, they seem fit to send us a letter trying to buy some of our
Yeah,
property.
they did. They tried to buy a 10-acre buffer
For
between me
pennies on
and
the dollar.
and the current location of the mine. So they didn't have any problem.
Yeah, they didn't have any problem sending the letter then. 'Cause they wanted
It just
to
seems
on
like,
property.
it seems like how this eases in, you know, they start off with a 2-acre exploratory mine, to see if there's any rocks there, you know. And it's almost kind of like, once they get that done, it's extremely, everything just goes as processed unless someone notices it in the paper, starts making a protest against it. Otherwise, this slips right into a lifetime mine or a 10-year mine. and nothing stops it. So going into the first two acre exploratory, it's relatively simple. They don't even know there are rocks there. They're just gonna clear the land, see if some's there. The next thing you know, they transferred into a lifetime mine.
Is this relatively new activity in this area?
Yes.
I'd say on damn road, but you
The
get over my
last 2 years
sticker,
has
they can
gotten
do it.
Out of
really
control.
heavy, really heavy.
And I think we gotta be careful, because like, obviously, we want people to make money, and we don't wanna overburden people who I assume are probably already underfunded. And, so, I mean, there has to be like, just like basic things that we've read, it's like, it was something like 45 feet away from like a structure, it's like, really, 45 feet? That's like not very far. I mean,
Yeah.
that
Someone
just that
explained
alone
to
would
the
be-
senator how far away residents has to be to get a mine next to them.
What was the question again?
What's the actual, the state, what did the state, how far do they have to be away from a house?
Well, we have, that's lateral support law, it's statutory law. If one won't have to hit depth plus 25, that's stay from the neighbor's fence.
How far?
One won't have to hit depth plus 25.
Yeah,
45
we
feet.
calculated, I think, in
The
the
hole
example.
plus 25 feet.
And how much
It's
is
gotta be
75
roughly
foot
50
then.
feet.
50 foot away from
So
neighbors that have children
But
and
that's-
whatnot.
Statutorily speaking, that
that's
would be a
statutory
good
law.
thing
That's-
to
we
like,
only-
hold
that needs to be
make that a
changed.
We
little-
only,
little more cushion.
we only are able to enforce what's on the book.
No, that's exactly right. That's what we're saying. Maybe
Well, that
that
needs
needs
to
to
Well,
focus
yeah,
on
instead
changing
of
some of
saying depth foot, you should say something that everybody understands, 50 damn feet.
Exactly.
But I would advocate for something even bigger than 50 feet. I think there's probably like a safe, I don't know what it would
3
be.
miles.
I don't know, like I know that like
I
my,
mean, you got kids that will climb those 40, 50 foot tailings.
right.
And then they'll fall into a 50 foot hole, which is 90 foot by the time you get to the top of the tailing.
And I know like we're all kind of like, oh, federal government, but like obviously like there's a lot of companies that have to operate within OSHA parameters. Maybe OSHA would have a recommendation. I really don't know the proper, but 50 feet, 45 feet, that just doesn't seem.
I'm sure OSHA has jurisdiction. They can go on there and check it.
Well, what I understood, Sam.
Richard, what, hang on a second, everybody, everybody's talking at one time. Richard, what are the existing statutes required from a company that wants to do, because we talked about 50 feet, we've seen one statute that 500 feet, I don't know
Yeah,
where.
that's regarding blasting.
Talk about
That's
those.
blasting.
Yeah.
Well, let's stay on point, then let's talk about how far from a structure can they be? I think that's our first
And
question.
blast within 300 foot of the structure.
Okay, not blasting,
Controlled
but let's talk
structure.
about digging a mine.
Pardon?
I think our question was, how far do you have to be from a property line to dig a mine? And you were talking about depth and,
That's the lateral support law.
so, within 50 foot of my property line. Now, my house might be another quarter mile down the road,
Yes, ma'am.
or my house might be sitting right on that property line, which I believe is kind of the case that brought all this to light was this residential area where the mine is from here to the kitchen, if not less, to her door. So I think what we first started talking about, if y'all don't mind me speaking up, is that we've had mining activity around the dam and what we call over Tater Hill in various ways for a number of years. But if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, it's continued to increase. I've seen 3 more mines, I believe, closer and closer to residential areas. And it just seems that maybe it's time somewhere in the process, legislation, whatever, that someone has some common sense. I know we talked about that. What is that? That when you start digging now in people's backyard, I doubt that would happen in Tulsa County. Yeah. So.
Around where these people live.
And you know, I've told you before, it just feels like because where we are, we're kind of swept under the rug, and that may not, I know that's not your intent, you're just following the rules of your job, you have no jurisdiction outside that mine. But we feel like there's more that the county commissioner could do, more that the state could do to help us find some kind of regulations to protect our homes, not just physically our homes, but the property values, our quality of life. The road, good Lord, how long we've been waiting for a decent road. And you can't tell me that those trucks are not causing excessive, unusual damage to the roadbed. You can't tell me they're not. And I've had, I spoke earlier, I've had 3 different instances coming around from the dam, headed back north, where I've almost had a head-on collision with a truck. And I did call the sheriff, and I called the county commissioner, and the sheriff went out there and said, hey guys, you gotta, you know, here's what you need to do.
Well, I know the dam's not even rated for that kind of way.
No, I can't go.
No, they
They
can't
can't
go
go.
across it.
And
So-
you know the road going to the dam, no, wasn't there.
So is, you know, the question I've always had, is there an alternative route? So we've got a couple issues. Drilling or mining in the back door close to residential neighborhoods now. Destruction of a county road. How much does that road cost? Anybody know?
The road is not being fixed at all now because ODOT has stopped it.
Well, no, it's coming. We have some information on that. But the destruction of that road, and it continues on down Texas Road.
What about,
So,
how many mines do you allow
and that's the other thing.
in several square miles? Because, I mean, there's gotta be some limitations. You can't have
Well, I'd like
14 mines in a
And-
2-acre spread.
She has some
to
information
explain,
about
the
that.
160 acre, because that one was denied, the 160
That
acre
was,
unit.
that's a limited use permit.
Right.
That was provision in that law.
But my question here too was Oldham's. They have 2 LEUs that are next to each other. Why weren't they prohibited?
Exactly.
Because one is actually incorporated right now in an LE permit, permanent permit.
But before it became an LE or gets approved, it was just an LU.
Correct.
So if they get a certain permit deal, the 160 acres don't mean nothing.
Well, it comes off. It's incorporated in a land, LE land event permit, and it's absorbed in that permit.
You know, the real bad part of the thing about it is,
No.
which, you know, I'm not a smart man and all this deal, but you come into our area, you come down into Lakeview, and I'm just saying this from Lakeview deal, not, other people's not in Lakeview deal, whatever. But they start doing that thing, and you start coming in there, the thing about it is that, and I know that you don't understand that, but down in our area deal, I can holler off my porch and my sister can hear me, because the echo, the sound, it's just the way it is, it comes off the way, it's just the way it is. When they start that, I mean, if they was allowed to do that across the patch, I know that it's just the way it is, but the noise and the crowd is just I mean, we hear it across the roads over there, but I can't even imagine it being right in the backyard. I mean, it's just it doesn't even make no sense. And I know that they say that, well, that one mine guy said, well, we'll just start, popping, that noise that we hear every day, pound and that deal. Well, we'll just start that at 8:30 and stop it at 5. Well, you want to hear that from 8:30 to 5? I mean, okay, say I had a little bitty baby, then I finally got to sleep, and all of a sudden this pounds, and it's not even it's just right down the road from your house. And God have mercy for Pat and the guy that lives right next to him. Oh my God, you'd never.
So our quality of life is being affected as well as evaluation of property, road.
I understand that you have to mine, and if it was out in the middle of the pasture and you got cows out there, I get that. But they crept into this recreational area,
Residential.
I mean, we like it quiet, but I mean, this is what we're telling you.
Retirement, they came across down road, that's just when they got up.
And they've moved this noise-making mines right in the backyard, and it's noise, it's hindrance, you get big trucks running up and down. We could go all day on fences, but basically, I understand that. But I just think there needs to be some provisions in there that you don't do that.
In a residential area.
Well, not just residential, but recreational.
Yeah,
This
and that's
is
a good point, because for the longest time, our lake was zoned as not recreational,
Like
and
a
they
trout.
worked so hard to make it a recreational lake. And now we're gonna risk it, I mean, and maybe this is the young person being annoying, but it's the water quality. I grew up on this lake, and I spent a fourth of my time here. And then other time in Clinton County, which is zoned, but, just a full disclosure. But to me, it's like, I just want to make sure that we have this forever. This is a huge revenue builder for the entire state, but it's also just for this area. So many people thrive, their economies thrive in the summer season. And like so many people have echoed here, there's like a lot of retirement, people who've chosen to leave the city and live here. When they did it, I was not very happy about it, to be very honest. But, you know, I worry about, you know, like, yeah, like, I want people to make money. Like, I want the drilling companies to make money. I really do. I just worry that maybe we're not paying attention, like you guys were saying, like, so many, so close together. Is that smart? I mean, you have those interim hearings. You go to those too. I'm sure you gentlemen have also been in them. I mean, I don't know, like, can you really safely do all those things so close together? And, like, I mean, obviously the quality of life, and even if we're like looking at it from a legal standpoint, and I'm definitely going to tiptoe around that. But just from the legal standpoint, like if we really put pen to paper, well, Tim Johnson was able to get an answer from the property owner, like, hey, how much would you sell this land for? And she told him, well, I can tell you point blank that all of our property combined, all the rental income that some people rent out, we well exceed that. Exactly. So we beat them just in that legal standpoint, but call me old-fashioned. I really don't want things to end up in the court because it gets really messy. So I think there has to be a diplomatic way, and maybe it's as simple as, hey, maybe instead of 45, 50 feet, maybe it's, you know, 5,000, I don't really know. I'm really bad at something like that. 3 miles, I don't really know.
I think that you can look at the rules, and I don't mind doing that, I don't mind having their own study. So 2 years ago, I read Senate Bill 10 that allowed the counties to zone, and got the living daylights beat out of me by Farm Bureau and by the Cattlemen's Association. And as a rural legislature, I wanted to even think about that. So it's kind of like the marijuana bills in the other part of my district, is that people voted for that, and then they voted against county zoning, but they want the legislature to come in and fix it. So one of the things I think we're going to have to look at is McIntosh County, are they willing to do some county zoning?
The commissioner said,
Just walked in.
He's there.
well, okay.
I thought it was at 3:30, I didn't realize y'all
Okay.
were starting.
The commissioner at the last meeting said he spoke with the Muskogee County Commissioner and said that it was just an unpopular situation or unpopular to do, or what did you say about the zoning?
Oh.
With another commissioner?
There's only 73 out of 77 counties do not have rural parts of the county where they're intersigned. Because it's not feasible, you just can't afford it.
What do you mean you can't afford it?
Just the cost of sending one out and zone it, I mean, just the survey and all that?
I mean,
What is involved in zoning?
what's that?
What is involved in getting something zoned, or is it even a probability between you and the city?
First off, somebody had to submit to the Board of County Commissioners to get it approved.
Yeah, my understanding is that the county zoning is, Okmulgee County is working toward it, and they want to do it statewide, and it's very difficult to do. You've got the right as a county to vote on that. But here's the opposite side of that. When you meet with Farm Bureau or you meet with the Cattlemen's Association, their objection to that is we've been running our farms and ranches for a long time, chicken ranches or whatever they're running, hog deals, and then folks begin to retire in the area or move into the area from other places, and they begin to, just like this, I don't like what's going on across the street. Pretty soon they start zoning, pretty soon I can't have my chicken farm anymore, or I can't have my cattle farm. It's a serious concern to their livelihood as well. But we're never going to get a statewide, but you have the right as a county, either to initially petition, or your county commissioners. The county commissioners can say, okay, we're going to put it forward and do it, or you can get it put on the ballot by an initial petition and go to county zoning. Now, I would recommend, as you were talking about earlier, let's look at some rules, some realistic rules. And so right now we're between 50 feet and 3 miles. You know, somewhere in there's got to be an answer.
I should have said 6 then.
All right, so I'm up to 75 feet so far, so I'm looking. I think.
Hey, tell the little kid.
75 be good, I'm touching it, my land touches it.
Hey, tell the parents that little kid got away from them and climbed on top of those.
Yeah, once
And
kid
fell
dies
through
in one
their
of mine,
death.
it's gonna be a hot day, no one wants to see it.
Well, again, again, I think there's gotta be a serious investigation into exactly where we are. When I leave out of here, I'll go down the road and I'm gonna.
Yeah, have
look
you
at it.
seen them yet?
I'm gonna take
Welcome
pictures
to
of
Baton
it.
Rouge.
I just want, when you drive down Dam Road, just imagine 4th of July,
And go 40 miles an hour too.
and 30,000 people decide to come down here, for family vacation or whatever, and kids just everywhere, four-wheelers, golf carts, everything going down the road, and then you got semis just buzzing by. It's a powder keg.
So,
Closer you get to the dam, the thicker they are.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's exactly right.
all right. Well, I finally put down the dam road is actually the road where the dam is instead of the adjective. before. So I- Catching up with you.
Okay.
And then I think also when we begin to look at a problem, and I like the meeting so far, we've got some real problems. And I think we have to define what those problems are. And those problems have to be very well specified. And where it's emotional to you guys, you got to get the emotion out of it. So here's exactly what we have. We got endangered kids. That's a real issue.
Here's another one. We have 2 live creeks on our property that backs up to the
Okay.
Odenville. And when it rains, all that yellow mud runs right through our creek and right into Lake Epola because I
That's an issue.
literally.
My question is, what about the core?
Well, we looked into the core, and I think they're looking into it. Apparently, there's some disagreement about that. I've also, by the way, I did contact the Cherokees, and they actually said they can't do anything about it, just for fun, in case anybody was wondering. Because it is a privately owned land, and it's a private lease with a private company, they can't get involved despite jurisdiction, so as long as somebody owns the property, we're not. But, that's a fun fact. First time.
It's a fun
Pretty much a fun theory.
But as far as, we have to, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have to contact DEQ and then they can come out and investigate that. I think that's like the other thing that's a little overwhelming from a constituent standpoint is that we've all had to figure this out on our own and like, we had a very short window. I think like what we
We
had.
have contacted the DEQ.
Yeah.
We've
And
contacted,
we
we're
haven't-
waiting reply.
And he's been out twice.
Yeah.
He's been out twice.
And
Because,
So DEQ has been out.
Yes, and he said all they have to do was put that black
Silk
silk across there and get a big book of all the rules and regulations and they'd be okay.
So, but
they never get back with us to the.
yeah, and honestly, in their defense, they're also probably overwhelmed because like all of us were so passionate about it that we kind of like landblasted them. I know we did with the Department of Mines. The safety thing is a big deal, but it also just seems like, and this is maybe a business side coming out of me, and I apologize in advance. We looked at how much it costs for them to even have like a bond to even get a permit. It was so small, like it was, I don't want to be rude, but it was a joke. What was it, like $3,500?
$1,500.
$1,500
$1,500 for a land.
Even worse, like
$3,500.
So in a nutshell, they just, when they decide to put mine, they just walk away from it and say, they just wipe their butt with $1,500. Because they're not, no, that wouldn't even pay for the fuel to the big equipment to fill them in.
You know, even if they put dirt down and they put grass in there like they said that, there ain't gonna be a tree in there in our lifetime. Ever. The deers are gone. I don't even see turkeys out anymore.
No, we lost all of our.
I mean, everything's gone.
We had a bunch of quail that we've been nursing
And
over
they're
there,
gone.
and the turkeys, and they're gone this year. Well, last year, and they're gone now.
So you're.
I don't mean to say turkeys because there's a bunch of us.
Well, we need to be hired, like,
It needs to be like 20 grand.
So my dad, like a general rule for a real contractor, and I don't want to be disrespectful, that was rude, but like for a real contractor, when they're really doing business, 1% is easy for a bond. And I don't know how much they were projected to make, and maybe that's unfair of me.
One gentleman said he had a $1 million investment.
Well, and that just seems like number one, it seems like a lot of people at that point are getting shortchanged, but I mean, that just doesn't seem like a high enough bond for the potential damage that not only damage our individual buildings and structures, but like the water, the animals, like.
I think that's just, I think all that's there is to guarantee they'll fill it back in. I don't think there's anything there
Yeah,
to
but
protect our
that
property.
even still though, like, I mean, like $1,500, like that's nothing. Like, I would walk away from that.
That's what, that's their whole plan.
Yeah.
I couldn't even sod my front yard.
Well, I know that's like
for
what I'm saying, it's
$1,500.
like, if you really put pen to paper, like, we're really at a disincentive, and I would be curious, I mean, that's great, to make that much money, that's like super impressive. Maybe I got the wrong line of work, but basically, I don't know, like it just seems like for as much money as they're making, as much risk and burden they're putting on all of us, that doesn't seem very fair. And that's more of a legal argument, but I would definitely say the bond needs to be significantly higher if they're gonna be.
So,
I totally agree with that.
So we talked about just the drilling. I guess in the first meeting, there was talk about blasting, so I've got a blasting investigation there, they're not really blasting, is that right?
Well, that's what they said, but
And
there's,
24 inspections, and no evidence was found for blasting and these explosives.
so basically they called everybody that's heard it liars.
Well, I think what we were
that's
hearing,
not-
there was
that's-
something.
That is true,
No,
that's
that is
basically
not
what y'all
true.
said. The
That is
man
not
stood
true.
here and
That
said,
is
we
not
don't
what
do
the
it,
people
and there's
said.
30 people standing up saying, well, we freaking heard it. We
Yeah.
felt the ground move. I'm literally planting flowers, and an explosion goes off, and all the rocks around me just like
And
this.
then one guy said, well, it's from them,
It's
from
from
the
them.
guy that's
Ammunition
And I said,
depot.
well, yeah, and I said, well, if we could
Hold
fill
on
it
just a
here,
sec.
God have mercy.
Let's let
and you
Mr.
follow.
Stone, our shore talk, because he does have some more information.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
One ammunition depot only does it after 11 o'clock in the morning.
We spent approximately 3 weeks
Really?
investigating this reported blasting. Inspector Mathis was part of that, and I was as well. As we have said before, there is one permit who has, actually there are 2 permits who are authorized to use explosives in McIntosh County. One of them is active, the other one is not. Spent about 3 weeks with these inspections. We inspected every mine in McIntosh County for blasting activity, and also several in the Muskogee, is that correct? Yes, sir. Yeah. And Inspector Mathis can tell you that we found no evidence of any unauthorized use of explosives. And we also checked with ODOT and the Corps of Engineers. They have a project ongoing at the dam. Checked that, and there are no blasting activities going on there. Inspector Mathis and I spent yesterday at the ammunition depot. They were kind enough to allow us to tour that. We gleaned a lot of information from that. And I can tell you, it's no secret, they shoot 5 days a week, sometimes 2 times, in 2 different pits, and they are significant explosions. And Inspector Mathis has calculated on Google, you're approximately 42 miles. It's from the depot to here, and conceivably, if conditions are right, it is possible to hear that. So, we intend to finish our report with the information that we got yesterday. We weren't able to include that here, but we will do that.
You said 42 miles and you could hear it, but can you feel it?
Yeah.
These people are feeling it.
There should be no ground vibration.
Well,
There is vibration. There's cracks in my house.
Haskell County?
You can't
But
say
keep in mind, I will tell you from experience, every one of you here, what they're saying. If you live in southwest Oklahoma, and they are training on Fort Sill, and you are more than 45 miles away, you will feel it. Your walls will vibrate. So I'm just saying that, I wasn't bearing a garden, and I don't know if it was dynamite, but I know what these gentlemen are saying.
So
I know their integrity is in
what the
place.
signs
and-
about the blast?
And it's impossible what they're saying.
Now, what about the
What about the
signs that
pictures
says
of
it's
that
like
That
black?
was at Stigler Stone, just down the road a little ways. That is the one who is inactive. They are authorized to use explosives on their permit, but they haven't shot in about 8 years. That's correct. And
So-
that was, I investigated that one personally. We walked almost the entire permit area. I've been a blaster for over 30 years, and I know when people are shooting.
Stigler Stone's
things
been
go
a
to-
permanent
Pardon?
fixture down there by the cemetery for a long time. Stigler Stone's been down there behind the cemetery for a long time.
Yes, ma'am. It's
And they
permit
have not
2000.
been doing nothing.
Yeah, permits.
And it wasn't until the last year or 2 that these other mines started.
Yeah, I don't think
opening
anyone
up.
had any issue with that when it was down there. It was on the
No,
other, it was
no.
on the other side of the damn road.
Right.
You'd hear it every once in a while, not a big deal. It's just when they started to jump the road, they decided to come on the west side of the damn road, that this has really become an issue. It went from coming from farmland into residential.
So can I ask you guys just like a personal question, since you guys are, the subject matter experts here? what do you guys think about people trying to be near us? Do you think it's a little close? Yeah, what are y'all, can you guys, in all honesty, if you can't say anything, say it, pass. But I mean, what's y'all's take on all this?
Ma'am, our opinion doesn't mean anything here. We're here for you guys. I remember there was quite a conversation at the last meeting about us being not from here and not caring. That's absolutely not true. I'm a small town country boy. I came from a community very similar to this. And it does resonate with me. But our opinions don't matter. We, as employees of the Department of Mines, we have rules and regulations that we must follow. We're restricted to that. We can't go beyond that.
So it does kind of
Or-
reside here or there?
Pardon?
It resides with the county or it resides with the state is what you're saying? You can say yes, it's fine. You're gonna say company.
I'm not understanding the question, ma'am.
Pretty much, like, if we want to see changes, it can't come from you guys, it has to come from either the
They just
state.
follow the laws.
Yeah, the laws, yeah.
So
So-
we're just getting that, we need to change them.
And I think that'd be correct, and even with the county commissioner, others will follow with us, unless it's county zone.
Right, and I honestly don't know, like, I think if we needed a zone, we could. I think there is a way to zone without, like, attacking farms and, because I agree with you, like, you can't do that. First of all, you're not gonna win it. Second of all, that's just not necessary, but I do think you could do it.
Through rural trains.
I don't think it's that big a stretch, say, go a mile away from the water, all the way around the lake, and that's a recreational area. I don't see it being
So
a.
you're in the city,
I am in Cleveland County, yes.
which is pretty close to that.
Yes.
So will you work with me on this problem? You understand the problem here, I work inside the county.
Uh-huh.
As appropriations chair, generally when I make phone calls, they answer.
Yep.
You committed to do that?
I will help you as much as I can. My hands could be slightly tied, but I will 100% help you.
All right. So I think if we can articulate the issues, we can get into the statutes.
We're out of Oklahoma City, too.
Okay, I'll be happy to work with all of them, but we just need to articulate the issues exactly what they are, and then begin to look back at how we can tweak those. Keep in mind to change these, we'll take a majority of votes, and inside the Senate, that's 25 votes.
Yeah, do you think that's feasible?
It is if they're reasonable.
Do you think if we just got the footage away from a building or a neighborhood, and we got that changed, and I think if we got the money aspect that they have to put down, I think that would make us all pretty happy at the end of the day. Well, maybe not. Go ahead.
My comment is that I want mining in this section to stop.
I do too.
That's my goal, is that no new mines are permitted in this section of the county. Or we can talk about getting that, rules that it can't be within so many feet, miles, whatever, of a residential property. I think that's a big part of that. That whatever that rule is that keeps that from happening now needs to be altered. Whether it's in McIntosh County, Muskogee County, Oklahoma County. I don't think the state has had enough experience with our mine industry to realize how that's impacting all these things to this point. You just go out there and dig a mine, doesn't bother anybody, out we go. But I think just specifying that it can't be within so many feet, if you have zoning, correct me if I'm wrong, if you have zoning or restriction, it says you can't dig a new mine in this
Is a
area.
mine considered industrial?
Pardon?
Is a mine, would it be
Industrial.
considered industrial? If they were gonna dig a mine in, say, Oklahoma County, would it have to be in an I-2 or
I-2, I-3.
I-3 rating
That's
before
beyond
they dig?
my,
Commercial zoning.
Because like when we build a building, the purpose has to be determined, whether it's commercial or industrial. If it's industrial, it can't be bordered up to residential. You have to have some commercial land zoned in there as a buffer.
So I want to address two or three issues. Ms. Vesmer says, I want it to stop here. I understand that.
I know.
That's not going to happen just automatically. And so we look at oil and gas over the last few years, or we look at the windmills, where they now have setbacks from some of the airports. Those are processes. And we did oil and gas. And so the lines had to be so far away, and the oil pumps had to be so far away from houses. So you begin to look at the rules and structures that benefits the entire state, and not just again, if I go back in and say, I want to stop all the digging in McIntosh County, nobody cares.
We ain't talking about
So-
McIntosh County.
Well, that's what we're talking about here.
Well,
And
we're
that's what I
talking,
want.
we're talking about residents.
Okay.
I mean,
But it's a McIntosh County issue. I know you
get
live
that.
here, but it's still a McIntosh County issue. We have to go back and say, how do we make the rules apply to the state and make it safe for the state?
That
They're
should
not
be in
just
any
gonna
county.
carve us
That
out.
should be in
That's
any
correct.
county.
They're not just gonna carve us out of everybody else in the
So
state.
let's say this was on the other side of the dam, okay? And someone put a request for a permit, okay? How far would you have to be away from the state park?
There are no extra provisions.
So they could put it 50 foot away from the fence on the state park,
Essentially so, yes.
but they don't do that. Do you know of any that close to the state park?
Not right off the top of my head.
Well, who owns that property though? Is that
The
Quary?
state. The state park.
They would have, yeah.
Oh, you mean the property that the mine will be on? Oh, it could be private property or whatever.
So if they send for a permit, it's possible that they could.
So also, keep in mind as we work through this, that we'll also be dealing with private property owners' rights.
Right.
And just keep in mind that that sword cuts both ways.
Right.
And so when you start talking about, especially in the current environment, we're gonna go in and tell private property owners what they can and cannot do with their property.
Yeah,
That's also
kind of, but we
what we're
talked
discussing.
about that a little bit, and like, honestly, at the end of the day, that would actually probably have to end up in court, and at the end of the day, like, we win. Like, it would be awful, but we would
Well, maybe
win.
not though.
No,
Maybe
it
not.
would-
I mean, I got my property. I can do what I want. This is what the whole started this whole thing. Suzanne or whatever her name is sells this piece of property to me. I can do
She
whatever
leased
I want to. Now, I've got to do a lot of things. I got to do environmental studies. I've got to do a lot of stuff.
For the people you lease to.
Right, and I live in this area, and I've got someone pretty special, lives 100 yards, a wedge away from this area. So I know how important this thing is, but you know, the laws are laws, right? So the property law the senator's talking about, I have a right to do whatever I want with my property. I've got to follow regulations, I've got to follow permits. But I think where you're getting at, is you're getting at, do we move this away, what the existing statute says, number one? And I think you make a great point. Does the bond change? Maybe that's another thing that's a big point. If it's that big a deal to bring that close to a residential area, then maybe it needs to be a big deal. So those two things, I think you bring up a really great point. I don't know that the county's a big deal because the county's getting money on this. And the county hadn't fought it.
Are you guys,
So,
how much?
I don't want to bring him in, no, I'm just saying.
I would like to know, seeing as how I paid like $3,000 something worth of tax this year, I'd like to know.
Okay, well, first off, there's
It
a
really hurts that I
there's
spent
a
$1 million
big
on a house
big-
right there that
big,
I probably couldn't sell for
misconception
$600,000.
about what property taxes go. Property taxes go to schools. There's no property taxes that goes to anything within the county other than, there's about 12% of it make up county payment. The rest of it's schools, libraries, health department. What line?
First responders.
No,
So when these
But
companies,
12% is for somebody's salary.
like, these companies are working here, like, how much was the money that these companies are?
This one guy said he had an $8 million investment. The guy that's ready to sell.
So if you had an $8 million investment, you guys aren't getting anything, like no sales.
right now, production tax, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, Senator, production tax is right now gas and oil. There's talk in the
They're not paying any
House
tax.
about making other, resources like rocks or other type of mining, making that production tax. But right now, it's not. Oh, I'm not sure about timber.
Well, I mean, those are resources. I have a question, if I might. When we talked about the taxes, I've been told earlier, a year or so ago, that the mining companies and the trucking companies pay a certain amount of road tax that goes back to the care of roads, but not specifically our
This
roads.
goes to the county.
But does it go to the county, does it go to the state, and then the state funds it back to the county?
That's it. That's the same.
We get our
gasoline
little
tax, sales
share
tax.
back to us.
And to get any production plant tax, you got to have production going in the county. for a county that does not have oil well or gas well no more, they do not get anything from production counties.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
But that's, I was hoping Trina was able to come, because, because I figured that this would come up about what, ad valorem and property tax, whatever you call it. And unfortunately, Kansas, Arkansas, Texas, they all get a portion of the property taxes for their roads, not Oklahoma.
No, I disagree with you.
That's the truth.
I don't agree with you. You get money from the state on our property tax.
No way, do not.
Oh, yes, you do.
The state doesn't have a property tax.
My property tax on my property gets funneled down to the county level. It doesn't go to the cities that I live in. It goes to the county. The county gets a piece
It
of
stays
it.
in the county.
Right.
It's their tax. But the state itself does not have a property tax.
No.
What I'm
So
saying
we don't deal with property
is
tax.
none of it goes towards roads.
All right, I guess my question
The
is,
rest of it goes towards schools.
how does the county benefit from having these mines?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the overarching question is what incentives is it
For the county.
For the county.
For the county, because for us, it's I feel like as a community, we benefit the county significantly more than the mines, because we're literally bringing people here to
spending our dollars.
Yeah, you
utilize.
got convenience stores, bait shops,
Yeah,
all
they're
of them that
big.
live off of it.
Okay. The county has nothing to do with these mines out here, other than the people paying property tax and owning the property.
But you're gonna get that whether there's a mine there or not.
Maybe once people stop coming.
Do they get readjusted if they pull $200,000 worth of rock off that piece of property? Does it make that property more valuable, or do you readjust the property tax?
That would be a Trina Williams question.
But if you follow through with some of the reasoning that you're looking at, deciding who can put in a business, who cannot put in a business, and then who makes that decision?
I mean, I guess just coming from the Cleveland County perspective, obviously we're used to having that conversation, but I honestly do feel the only thing you can, because it's gonna, the senator is correct, it's gonna be we gotta start here and work our way up. If we throw all these things at all these senators, they're gonna not pay attention, so we gotta find feasible
Need to be
things that we can
specific.
get everybody to buy in.
So we've listed two things today that I think we can go with. First of all is on the distances. We can look at distancing, we can look at the rules on that, and we talk about bonding. And to make sure that bonding equals the property line. Those two are legitimate. And then we can look into the roads. We've talked about the roads before. One of the things that we do have trouble in Oklahoma is weights and measures on county roads. And so there's a bill that's moving through the legislature this time, that's moving on the way from the Corporation Commission onto the Highway Patrol, DPS. Once DPS is able to get that, then you'll see weights and measures more out inside the counties. And that's one of the reasons we're moving that forward. And that bill is now out of the Senate and it's over in the House. That within itself, Senator Allen's been working on that for almost 10 years. Finally this year, I think he'll get over the line to get that done. It takes a long time for that process to go. Meantime, we can get ODOT in and get a few others to take a look.
There's another issue, and it's probably going to be answered by the Department of Mines here. Once they quit the production, and something was said at the last meeting that as long as they come back periodically and pull rock, that permit can stay active. I mean, there should be a time limit on pulling rock out, product out of the mountain, and once they pull the equipment off, that they should shut the mine down and start reclaiming it. If they come back once a year, pull out so many tons.
Mike, there is a statute on the books that deals with simultaneous reclamation, and it is enforced. But with dimension stone, sometimes it's a bit of an enigma because of the nature of the business, the marketability of the rock and where it's located. It's difficult to reclaim something that they know maybe in a couple of years when the rock becomes valuable again, they go back in and try to mine it. So it's a two-edged sword.
So basically they open it up, they go in there a couple days a year until the price gets right, then they go in there and mine it.
And it's gonna look
But
like.
I mean, this could go on 20, 30, 40 years.
Especially from what I understand from talking with y'all is that it can start out hey, we're gonna apply for this limit use permit. Okay, now that 12 months is done, let's go like literally like hop over here.
They don't have to wait 12
Yeah.
months.
So it's like, it just seems like instead of, and I think there's a lot of, this is my other concern just for fun as well. Like, if it was like a huge quarry, like there'd be a lot more strict rules going in. But because it's limit use, it seems like they, I don't wanna say skirt around because it makes it sound shady, but there's definitely like different rules that apply to them. Like, for example, with the limit use property, they really didn't have to put up a fence. Now they said they would, or that you guys would consider like making them do it. But with the limit use permit, you don't have to put up safety barriers. Am I wrong on that?
That is correct.
So it's a kid on a four-wheeler could just
Yep.
drive right there.
100%.
Senator.
And right up on top of
Senator.
those
Good
tailings.
point, good point to look at. But you
Senator.
talk about just shutting something down temporarily, keep in mind, like oil and gas, they'll cap their wells whenever the price is down, they'll go back and just let it cap it and go again.
But it's not like a big hole.
I understand, but still, yeah, we're still dealing with mining.
That's true.
And we're still dealing with minerals.
It's a resource, but the bottom line is it doesn't, well, I've been around oil and gas my whole life.
Right.
I get it, but it's not, you don't see the big mud pits anymore. I mean, they've changed that to where they clean it up.
Yes, sir.
One couple questions. You'd made something on the bond?
Yes, sir.
I missed what you said.
Well, I said, you know, that it could be even a sliding bond. And so if you're next to a property that's very expensive, you say $1 million house, and you could be looking at a bond, he's be able to replace the possible damage in the area. If you're out in the middle of the field, maybe, you know, 2,500, 3,500 may work.
Well, when you dig a 20-foot hole, 40-foot hole for an acre, and you've got $1,500 to fill it up, that's not gonna work. They should be responsible, just like an oil company is for a well.
Well,
You drill it, you're responsible. Well, but you don't, but the permit only says $1,500. They said, well, I'll forfeit the permit, walk away from it.
No, it's more to it than that. When you forfeit a permit or a permit is forfeited, when we show cause permit, show cause action, and you lose that permit for that, you are never able to get another mining permit, ever. If you have another mining permit, that permit also becomes, is in jeopardy.
It's in jeopardy.
Yes, sir.
But if you set up a different company,
No,
you guys keep up with that?
yes, we do.
Well, let's put a scenario. Say a guy opens one up, keeps it open for 40 years, makes his money. He's got a 160-acre hole there in the ground. He's like, I'm done. You can't penalize it, he didn't do anything.
Hey, I'm retired.
So what happens, like, has that ever happened? Like, does that how often does that happen?
It very rarely happens.
Right down here at Stigler Mining,
That one's been open
that one's
forever.
been open for 100,000 years. and
No,
it
it's
looks
been
like
they're
over
still in
since
good-
2000, about 20 years old.
It looks like open because they're still in good standing, correct, on the
Permit
fence?
good standing, all the fees are paid, permit good standing.
I just,
So reclamation does not, I mean, it doesn't happen. Reclamation doesn't happen.
It doesn't have to until they're just tired of digging
It
it.
never happens.
Okay,
Okay.
so,
Well,
Here's another thing.
my problem
yes, sir.
is, it's very evident to me that we need rule changes here. I mean,
Industry,
the whole thing.
for the state.
I think they should follow the restrictions that they put on oil companies.
unless they
Like
just
he's talking about no pits, fences, all those kinds of things. There's just a distance rules to follow, and I don't see those here per se,
Right.
to the extent that you see on the oil and gas side.
So happy to take a look at those.
Yeah.
I'm going to be asked a question, and I don't mean anything by the question itself, I'm going to be asked the same question. Most of you have moved into this area. Did you not realize that like Stigler was already here when you moved in?
It wasn't when I moved here.
What?
None of
We
this
bought
was here
that
when I
here,
moved in
wasn't
20 years
Okay,
ago.
so I can honestly tell my colleagues that whenever you bought property here, there were no mines in the area.
Correct.
Well,
There was one
Back in
small
the
mine.
70s, there was.
and I think to echo what everybody's saying is like, it's been over the last few years, that's just been like,
When you drive down,
That's become active.
yeah, so it's like, one wasn't probably a big deal to the community, but whenever it's like, I
Mine,
can't get
mine,
across it, it's
mine.
all there, it's like, that's whenever.
I'm just going back, whenever he said, you know, Stigler's been here for 20 years, so everybody in this room had property here before 20
I
years
can't say
ago.
that.
I cannot.
I did.
I can.
I
So,
can.
that's what I'm saying, so the thing is gonna be, they will seriously ask me, did they not know when they bought property there that there was a possibility of mining?
Let's see a show of hands. How many people?
I will tell you, I recently have bought property, and I, honest to God, I have a master's degree, I'm a highly educated person, and I can tell you, I had no idea that you could even, by the way, I also don't think a master's degree makes you highly educated, but like, I'm considered a highly educated person.
Actually, been dead is what.
Basically, my whole life. Yeah, but I can honestly tell you, no, I did not know that that was a possibility. And honestly, I didn't even know that I mean, maybe like, yeah, you could have like a mine, because I've seen some of them, but more so, like, I didn't know you could do it that close to someone's backyard, or, you know, front yard.
Could we have a show of hands, people that have owned property here over 20 years?
Right.
I came here in '05, so I'm dead gum close.
That's
The only place I was here was right behind the cemetery. It was Stigler Stone, and they weren't hauling nothing out there.
But
They hauled
that
everything
Stigler
out
line was
the
not
road.
in a residential area.
Yeah.
It was right up, right up to core land.
Not to mention, they didn't mine it, strip it down to the dirt.
There was a,
Next
there
to
was
the road,
a
there was
visual
like a-
barrier, they left
a
it kind of burned
windrow.
up by the road, there was trees, you couldn't see it, you seen the entrance.
Until they put that one on the other side.
Questions, Dave?
Hey, shouldn't there be respect for a cemetery? It's on both sides of it now.
Go ahead, Pat.
That has,
Well, I was gonna say, I have said at the beginning, since I started doing the paperwork on this, that as a community, it's our fault that we didn't do something before it got at my back door, and then I got active.
Hey, we've been
And I
doing
have
this
to
for
say, and you have, and
2
I have
years
to say, Mr. Shore and his office have been over backwards, because I have been on the phone to him daily, with my 20 questions, and he's given me lots of important information. So, when the permit was denied, based on the 160-acre unit, that was a blessing to me.
Sure.
right.
But I'm also here now to support the rest of the community, because we do need something done. But another question I have for Mr. Short, when I see on your staff meetings, when y'all have rules, changes to your regulations, you know, do y'all do that in-house? I mean, because I was a federal worker, and we had guidelines before too, where we changed things. So do y'all do that in-house where y'all could make changes yourselves to like letting us notice about limited use publicly? Can y'all change things like that? Instead of
We do
limited,
not.
I was gonna say everybody's phone is.
That's strictly the purview of the legislation.
Okay.
We do have policy and procedures regarding those. It's done within the agency. Those are promulgated. We have standard operating procedures that we use. Those are promulgated within the agency. Those are, that's public information if you want to see them, but those are not. The formula for doing that is within the agency.
You know, Pat, a lot of the discussion's been really good around what the senator can possibly do moving forward. And it's made some great points, the two I think in particular. But, you know, the existing stuff outside of the senator's view, and I don't know it deserves a long dissertation here, but what the county could have done, should have done, foreseeable, could have before a lot of this stuff. And those that live here and have gone through this, that's something I think you need, and I don't think it deserves a dissertation here, but something that needs to be looked at very carefully, of the elected officials that have allowed things to happen. And they're all, I'm sure they're all honest and honorable, but why it's happened in the first place, and now we got to this place. But I think moving forward, without a doubt, I mean, I trust the senator and his word to work to see how they can try to eliminate things going forward. But as a community, the county has some issues as well.
So to follow up, the items that you've
Yes.
taken on for us, is that all at the state level? What can the county do for us?
Well, I think when we look into mining, county's going to be somewhat limited. And because, just like when he talks about rules, they can promulgate rules. We have the right as a legislature to approve or disapprove the rules. And so there are thousands of rules that are promulgated every year. So what we'll be looking at is I'll go back and look at their rules, and there are new rules coming in, because we have to disallow whenever they come up. It's just the way the statute is. So I want to go back to mining and understand what the rules are. I think the idea of fencing, to me, that should be fairly easy to address. Going back, the idea of the bond should be fairly easy. The property line, looking at that, I think those are all definitive things that we can get an investigation in. I put down at the bottom of my notes, an urban study on mining in Oklahoma.
What about, not to interrupt you, sir, but, notification of property owners within a half mile?
Yeah, I've got that top of my list
Okay.
on how we do that. And, you know, this is not just with you guys. Notifications anymore are getting more and more difficult. Just simply to get done. Posting on the property is a good idea.
Just a little FYI, when we first noticed the property get scraped off, that's when we knew there was gonna be a mine. And of course, I talked to the miner, and he said, oh yeah, he said, this thing's blowed up. He said, we got 360 something acres, we're gonna mine this whole damn road, okay? That's got us a little bit concerned. Sure. Okay? Then you got the simple fact that our neighborhood protested that limited use. They got it anyway. And now he's opened up another 2 acres.
Knowing that the neighbors protested, that did it again.
I guess
They
my
allowed
question
it
is,
to happen
what-
again.
Who views the complaints? Is it a board or, I mean,
Or do-
when we follow,
Are we just talking out of our head? And
yeah, I mean, when we send in an official complaint or an unofficial complaint, talk us through the process. How does that?
Are you saying in regard to a permit or a permit application?
Yes, sure.
With an LU, there is the administrative procedure on that. It's called judicial review. When you send in a letter of concern, it's taken, and that goes straight to legal because that starts a legal process. That's turned over to our legal department. That's where it began.
But I guess my question is, who's making the call?
Pardon?
Who's making the decision? Who is judicial review? Is this a board of some people?
We have a legal department. We have our lead attorney, and he's the one that makes that determination.
Okay, so it's one person?
One person,
One person's making this decision for every one of these mines?
For the process, when it goes to him, he initiates the process. Actually, the attorney general it goes to the attorney general. We get a hearing officer from their office to do these reviews and the formal hearing. That's where that comes from.
Okay, but if one person says yes or no.
And
Yes,
does
sir.
this person come down and look before he says, okay?
That's
Okay,
part of
so
it.
That's him.
That's out of
Does
mine.
he come down and look and see how close
It's
it's
a
to the
little
house?
alarming that one person has the power to approve or disapprove.
Well, that's
To me, it should be a board.
No, that's the beginning of the process.
Okay.
It goes from informal conference to formal review or formal hearing, and then after that, it continue into the court system. After that, we had one go to the Supreme Court.
Okay, that's when the lawyers get involved and everything.
Yeah, it does not end with a formal review or a formal hearing.
But how does he get?
But I mean, he got turned loose to do it.
Pardon?
Okay?
Well, he starts a procedure.
That's
He
correct.
doesn't make the final decision. He just starts.
No,
a
but I'm
procedure.
saying, this guy's digging, so evidently he got released.
No. You're talking about an LU? Yeah,
I'm talking about LU.
That's different. That's a different situation than a formal permit. On an LE, once an informal conference is established, the permit process stops. It stops, and until it is resolved. If it goes past the informal conference part and goes to a formal hearing, the permit is not signed and issued.
No, I'm just saying, but eventually, it was an informal complaint, okay? Something happened, it was looked at, someone made the verdict on it. Correct. Okay? Is this one person in your office making this verdict?
It's not in our office, sir. Our
Where's it go?
Pardon?
Where does it?
It goes to our legal department. It is then sent to the Attorney General. That's
Attorney General of Oklahoma.
That's who establishes who the hearing officer
So,
will be.
so he
Attorney
approves
General
every mine,
agree?
the Attorney General?
Pardon?
The Attorney General
Well, he's got
approves
staff
everything?
that, he's got staff that it's gotta go to. It's a long process that it's gotta
Okay, so
go
then
What I'm
through.
saying is,
Does
it
he
just
read
takes
the
one
complaint?
man's signature.
No, it doesn't take one man. It's gotta go through several different processes before.
Who reads the complaints?
Pardon?
Who reads the complaints?
complaints come into on the mineral side. That's where they start.
And who reads them?
I see them.
And what do you do with them? Just wad them up and use them as
No,
kindling?
you just said
What do you do?
staff, you said that. And
Okay,
then
so you got some attorneys in there and they look through it and say, this warrants or this doesn't warrant, right? And they pass it on.
No, that's not how it's done. Every complaint, every letter of concern is gathered, and there's some time elements involved. Say, for instance, on, I think let's just use Oldham as an example.
Let's do.
On LA 2740, you have sent in a letter requesting
We
a
all
formal
have,
hearing.
all the neighbors have, twice.
You have sent in a letter
For 2
requesting.
years.
We have sent in a letter requesting a formal hearing. That you have 30 days for all those letters to come in. At the end of the 30 days, and I think that's actually Monday, those letters are accumulated and sent to the legal department. They accumulate those, they get in communication with the Attorney General's office or the hearing examiner, whoever that will be, and that's where that goes. If you have any questions, I've talked to legal about this. Jonathan Allen is our attorney. He's more than happy to talk to you about it.
That'd be good, yeah, I'd like to.
He's more than happy to talk to you about it.
He's been really helpful to me.
I can give you his email after the meeting.
Okay, that'd be great.
He has told me that if you want to communicate with him, he's more than happy to do it. And honestly, he has advised me as his client to not speak for him. So.
They call me on this. Yes.
Go ahead, jump on it.
That goes to good neighborliness. This particular neighbor decides to do it to their property. I understand that on their property. But I could also put a swine farm on the other side of their house. But I wouldn't do that because I'm a better person. So I guess,
Unless swine is your business.
no, if swine was my business, I'd have about 10,000 acres. I'd do that for me. I've done swine farms. To me, it's just, it looks like there's just nobody really watching over it. It looks
Yeah,
like
it's just
running money,
devastating whenever you like try to invest in an area and then like you don't feel like you're being like heard or it was like you're not getting what you want in return. But I think like the senator was saying, like the hard part is, because trust me, when I found out, and I don't have near the property, but I mean like whenever I first found out about it, like I was devastated. Like I was so sad. Like I was like, I'm gonna for sale when I'm done. We're moving to Texoma or God forbid Grand Lake. And so
Go where there's sandstone, you're saying.
but I mean like my whole thing is like I feel you, not nearly like with the money aspect of it, but I get it. But at the end of the day, whenever we're talking results, the senator's right. You gotta go, you gotta live by the rules, and you gotta die by the rules. Like, and that's what we have to do. We have to play the game, and it sucks. And
that's the way
that's
it
how it works. And
But rule changes is the start.
it's a start.
But Richard, if I understood right, Monday's the deadline for all the letters coming in, so there'll be a formal hearing coming up in the near future.
That is correct. Yes, and you have also requested a judicial review on the 2LU.
And those who send in letters will be notified of the date and the time of the formal hearing.
What happens when the formal hearing?
What happened?
Can you shut the mine down at the formal hearing? Is that a possibility?
Man, that mine has not been issued, that permit has not been issued.
Okay.
So it's
What
all
I'm
about just
saying
getting
is,
the permit
in
issued
a
at this
formal
point.
hearing, can it go towards the residents'
But you'll
way?
have the opportunity to speak, just like you have today.
Can it go towards the residents' way?
I guess what she's saying, what's the percentages?
Yeah.
Are we
What's
wasting
it
our
kinda
time?
like? Is it 50-50, is it 70-30, is it 30-70? I mean, what's the percentage?
You will be
Depends on
given,
how many attorneys we
every
have.
opportunity to present your side and your concerns.
That's.
But the concerns are.
But it's still a great answer.
But at the same time, if you get into the formal hearing and you don't like the outcome of it, sue.
Well, that's next.
And that's your next step, but you gotta go through the formal hearing first.
And the concerns are valid.
And I'll have my attorney get a hold
The
of your
concerns are
attorney.
valid. If you're standing on that, your concerns are very valid.
That's like honestly the jurisdiction that I think that you really have. Otherwise, it really is gonna rest with the gentleman here. So I mean, but as far as the senator goes, I would think too, so like that's like the most he can do for us. It's a big deal, and not just a big deal for
Sure,
us.
no,
It is a big deal
appreciate
for
you
the
being here,
entire.
it means a lot, I'm just trying to figure out direction.
Coming down here.
Richard,
You know, and just for the simple fact, these people have 48 weeks to do this.
Now he's
We
going
also
to
go
LA.
back 43.
And it's already been.
He just
The
got
amount
the
of jobs
LU
we've
in
had,
January.
the concrete being poured,
He just got
we've
the
got a
LU in
lot of money
January.
in this county, a lot of labor. I see 2 people stacked on the ground, I just don't see the value of defacing the land that caused all this stuff. I just don't see the value.
You know, let me go back to Tuscan County building is marijuana farms. Same discussion. Today it's legal in Oklahoma.
Right.
So we're working with legislation going through this time.
Make them use charcoal filter, clean it up, there are ways around it.
Trying to get this.
So that's received in the someone's.
So it just takes time to go through that process. And I'm going through that process. I want to go ahead and I'm going to drive down the road that's described in the heading. And take some pictures. And just see what's happening. Certainly, I've got contact information. I'll be back.
Great, I appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you coming.
Before you go down that road, let me let you know they're supposed to start painting it next